Hello and welcome to this edition of Issues with Jide. Here we'll talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our political and national landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, Kwankwaso attacks Labour Party over failed merger, says its popularity is mere bubble. Also, explosions rock APC rally in Port Harcourt. And later on the show, Malami yet to receive Soludo's request for Nnamdi Kanu's release to him as Orji Kalu asks federal government to obey court order. In the course of the program, we'll take your questions, but first, subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. I have joining me via Zoom, the maestro himself is back in Lagos, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. Good to see you again, BQ.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Brian. Good to do this with you again. We have maintained our record. We have not missed this program for one day since we kicked it off. And we'll do our best, no matter the situation we find ourselves,
Absolutely,
to ensure that come on air for the overriding joy of our viewers.
Absolutely. So let's set rolling. The presidential candidate of the New Nigeria's People's Party, Rabi Kwankwaso, at Chatham House, described the Labour Party presidential candidate, describing it as a sectarian party, or the Labour Party as a sectarian party based on ethnicity and religion. In fact, it took offense at the question asked about the failed merger. What's your reaction to Mr. Kwankwaso's position?
Well, I think that his reaction did not come to me as a surprise. I knew all along that the two parties could not work together because of differences about which of them was the more dominant partner in the relationship. As far as the Labour Party was concerned, his party was stronger than the NNPP, and for that reason, they didn't see any reason why Obi, for example, should be the running mate to Kwankwaso. Kwankwaso, as far as he was concerned at that time and up to now, the Labour Party was the inferior partner. And so the Labour Party should have been the one to produce the deputy, the vice presidential candidate of the in the event of the merger. So it was this battle for supremacy that made sure that the merger, as they wanted to call it, did not work. In any case, the window for a merger had slammed shut at the time both parties began talking about the possibility of a merger. They could still have worked together, but the possibility of a merger, in which case the two parties will come together and one, the inferior party, in inverted commas, will dissolve into the major party. That legally was no longer possible because the period for that to happen had already come to an end. So the issue of merger, in my view, was not even a possibility, legally speaking, because that window had closed. But they could still have found a way to work together. An understanding could still have been possible, which will see the two parties field candidates in areas where they felt they were a particular party was quite strong, they could concede such positions. You know, for example, in the Southeast and the South-South, the Labour Party could be given the opportunity to produce candidates in those areas, while Labour, while the NNPP will be allowed to produce candidates in its own area of strength. That will have afforded Obi's Labour Party the opportunity, the working together will have afforded Obi's Labour Party the opportunity to make some inroads in the Northwest in the interest of both, in the interest of one union, that is, in the event that the two parties came together. But I remember that Kwankwaso dismissed notions that he should be the vice presidential candidate in the event of the two unions coming together. I would like to call them unions now. But he said, he was asking the question, what do I tell my people? That I have surrendered my position as the presidential candidate of the party to someone from an inferior party. So this notion that I'm superior to you, therefore you should be the one to be the vice presidential candidate, ab initio was the main problem, was the main reason these two political parties could not work together. As far as Kwankwaso was concerned, the two NNPP was the stronger party. And because it was a stronger party, it ought to have greater leverage over Labour Party. As far as it's concerned, the Labour Party was an ethnic contraption. He believes that outside of the Southeast, and to a little extent the South-South, that the Labour Party has no presence. So, and that is the point, has no presence in other parts of the country. And that was the point that he made during his Chatham House outing. As far as it's concerned, because of the media hype that Labour was enjoying, you know, at that period when they were trying to come together, it was difficult for them to agree to work together. The point he didn't make was that they refused to agree to be the, to have Obi become the vice presidential candidate. And I really do not blame Obi, because a lot of people support him today because he is the standard bearer of the Labour Party. If he agreed, for example, to be the vice presidential candidate to the NNPP, of the NNPP, what would have been the difference between what transpired 4 years ago and what is going on now? I can tell you that Obi will not enjoy the kind of popularity that he enjoys in the Southeast, in some parts of Nigeria, especially Lagos, if he had agreed to be the vice presidential candidate to Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. So it's a question of a contest for supremacy between two parties that, in the context of Nigerian general elections, cannot be said to be popular parties. So, but as far as they are concerned, they've become popular during this electioneering season, and they are already seen themselves as capable of even winning the election. When you talk to the NNPP people, they will tell you that this election will come with a lot of surprises, and they are sure they are going to win. Interview Buba Galadima is going to tell you that no party can defeat the NNPP. Interview Obi supporters. As far as they are concerned, Peter Obi is the most popular candidate in the race, and they have been helped by the opinion polls that we have seen released in the last few months, showing Obi being ahead of other political parties. In fact, one of the polls showed that Obi was even stronger than Kwankwaso in Kano State, more popular than Kwankwaso in Kano State. I've never had anything more ridiculous than that. I see myself to a large extent as a Kano man. I go there from time to time. I will never believe an opinion poll that places Peter Obi ahead of Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso in a state like Kano. But it is what it is, and it is this notion that, look, we are very strong, we can win the election, that makes making concessions to one another a lot difficult. And I'm not surprised at the angry manner Kwankwaso dismissed the notion that Peter Obi's Labour Party is a national party.
Right. It is what it is, just like you said. So let me quickly take one or two comments here. Oluchukwu Cletter said, good evening, Mr. Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. Thank you for standing on the path of truth all the time. I also commend the sacrifices towards ensuring that the party holds, the program holds every Saturday. Fabian Akaise says, Peter Obi is the least competent of the top 4 presidential candidates, and he chose to select an inferior running mate. No, I don't think I'll have to read that. Well, he's actually giving us another comment here. Maybe I should take another of his comments. Popularity has never been a yardstick for winning Nigerian elections. How can PO win over candidates that have been planning for years in advance by building political alliances? So, talking about NNPP and Labour Party, you felt they actually lost the chance to form a formidable third force.
Yes, but the truth in the recess is, if they were to merge, because merger is the word that we are seeing, I'm saying that even the period in which a merger could have happened had passed. So the issue of merger was even legally out of the question. But the possibility of working together, having an understanding, agreeing to work together, that one was possible, and I've explained how they could have done it by conceding to each other where to field candidates, playing to each other's strengths and all that. But clearly, both parties thought that there was, either of those parties thought that it was the stronger. So because they felt that they were individually stronger than the other party being talked to, they felt that, okay, it shouldn't be me that will make the concession to become vice presidential candidate. That was the source of the disagreement. If Obi, for example, had agreed to be vice presidential candidate, I'm sure that Peter Obi, I'm sure that Kwankwaso will have been happy to work with him, but neither of them was ready to take that step backwards. And in the end, they lost an opportunity to form a formidable union, which will have been a real threat to the two dominant parties.
Tony Goodman says Kwankwaso should stop talking about
you can imagine being strong in the southeast, being a little strong in the south, and then having a good showing in the northwest, where Kwankwaso has some level of presence. That would have made that union quite a handful to the other parties, but they were not prepared to work together.
Right. Let's change tack. 2 women were injured in a twin explosion that rocked a rally of the All Progressives Congress at the Rumowoji playground in Port Harcourt. But police dispelled the explosion reports, saying that it's a communal violence between 2 factional groups. How did you view this?
Well, it's possible that the police was right, but whether the police was right or not, whether the account of the police was the correct account, we are tired of the familiar stories of violence about our elections. I was reading today that 2 APC members were killed by gunmen in Ebonyi State during a meeting of the party this weekend. This is not what we want to hear about during an electioneering season. There's no point killing one another over elections. The politicians who are contesting these elections, the Tinubus, the Atikus of this world, the worst that they can do to themselves is the verbal exchange that we see them is the verbal assault that we see them exchange on the podium. They are not going to come to blows. You are not going to see Tinubu and Atiku at their age exchanging blows. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They can attack one another verbally. They can insult one another, but they will not kill one another. But ordinary people who should be challenging these politicians to work for the Nigerian people, they are the ones killing themselves over politicians. I mean, it makes no sense. It is clear that even if it was not a bomb, somebody fired into the crowd, leading to injury sustained by some of the people who were present at the rally. It may not have been a bomb in the end, because when I read that shrapnels were removed from the leg of one of the victims, it could have been a shot from a gun that injured the woman, you know. Could have been a shot. Some of these shotguns, they have small pellets that can cause that kind of injury. Pellets that can cause that kind of. So it may not have been a bomb in the real sense of the word. Maybe a bomb will have caused bigger havoc. Maybe it will have killed people or caused people to suffer more severe injury. That is a possibility. But what we are saying is, whatever it is, we do not want to see violence in our elections, and campaign grounds need to be protected by the police so that our people do not lose their lives unnecessarily during this season. So that is my own position on this. The police leadership has ordered an investigation, a full investigation into this. We are talking about the preliminary findings of the police that, look, there was a disagreement, and money was given to the CDC members, who then, the CDC members in the community, who then decided to give some of the chiefs of the community without, and then a faction of the CDC, the Community Development Association of the community, and the faction that felt sidelined decided to throw spanner in the works. But the point that one is making is, it is wrong to even take that step. You don't have to fire into the crowd. You don't have to injure people who knew nothing about how money was shared and how only a few people benefited from the money that was paid for the campaign ground where the rally took place.
Right. Okay, so let me take one or two comments here. Nelson Adefe Samuel Oluwarunfola said the explosion is illegal and should be investigated, and people should be jailed for such distraction and insecurity. Fabian Akeze says, well, Tony Goodman says the police is right on Rivers explosion because Wike and PDP is popular in Rivers. I don't see them going to the extent of throwing bomb. Fabian Akeze says the rally had no supporters. APC needs a new strategy in Rivers that does not involve Tonyeko. You need a forceful politician with an iron hand like Wike. Tonyeko is too academic for the people. Do you agree with Fabian here, Biko?
The truth is, Rivers is looking more and more like a one-party state now. I was there. I can tell you, a good number of people defected from APC, went to join the PDP. So the PDP is a lot stronger now. Look at someone who was spokesperson for APC for many years. Today is the Commissioner for Information in Rivers State. Wike has been doing his best to asphyxiate the opposition, make his own party stronger, while terribly weakening the opposition. And that is what we have. Amechi's insistence on Toyeko has made the APC weaker in that state. And you know, it was from the belly of the APC that the SDP candidate, governorship candidate in the state, Magnus Abe, came out. That has not made APC stronger. It's made APC definitely weaker, because Magnus Abe is a strong politician, no matter how you look at it. So I believe that, yes, going forward, APC has to put its house in order, get a formidable governorship candidate and a chairman in the state who will galvanize the party and make the party stronger in the post-Wike era. For now, APC is divided, a house divided. APC Rivers is a house divided against itself, torn apart by needless bickering and selfishness on the part of its leadership in the state. If the leaders had agreed to work together, they had the chance to dismantle, to upstage the PDP, but they didn't help their own chances by the needless bickering, the needless fighting that we come to associate them with.
Let's change tack by going to our very last topic issue for today. Orji Kalu has asked the federal government to obey court order to release Nnamdi Kanu, while Governor Soludo also said is ready to stand as a surety for him. But the Attorney General, Abubakar Malami, said such request has not been invoked formally for his consideration. Does it look like a light at the end of the tunnel?
No, there is no light. It is clear that this government does not want to look at the possibility of resolving this problem through dialogue. That's not what they are considering at all. Mr. President has always said, let the courts decide this matter. Mr. President was appealed to by Bazulike Amechi, the late former First Republic Minister of Aviation who died recently. He said, look, I have a level of control over Nnamdi Kanu. Give him to me. I can assure you that I will make him stop some of the negative things that he's been doing. Mr. President said he will consider the request, but he never considered the request. If the government wanted to release him, at the time when government lost that case at the appeal court, they could have found a way to release him, but the government was not prepared to release him. And that was the point that Orji Kalu made when he said, we are supposed to obey the laws of the land. If a competent court of law gives a judgment, you have to obey it. So as things stand now, government was not prepared to release Nnamdi Kanu. Government decided to go to Supreme Court. Supreme Court has not even announced a date when it will begin to look at the appeal of the federal government, because the federal government appealed that judgment of the appeal court, setting Nnamdi Kanu free. I believe that if Nnamdi Kanu is to be released, it has to be with some tough conditions. And one of the conditions is that he will no longer resort to armed struggle against his country. Can we be sure that Nnamdi Kanu will give up armed struggle against his country? Will he give up his claim to Biafra? Will he give up his struggle for self-determination of the people of the Southeast? I mean, these are issues that have to be addressed, and I can see that this government is not prepared to look in the direction of dialogue. Even Malami said the matter had not been officially, that's the request, Soludo's request, had not been officially communicated to him, and that if such a request was to be made, it ought to be made through the court. So that the judiciary is the avenue through which such a request can be made. So that is like saying, look, let the courts decide. Malami's message is as clear as daylight. He wants the courts to decide whether Kanu can be free or we should remain in captivity or in detention. So that is where we are on this matter. The request being made by both men, that's Orji Kalu and Soludo, the requests are quite clear. Orji believes that a court ordered his release, so go ahead, release him, because we want our courts to be obeyed. We cannot choose when to obey the courts, So that's what Orji Kalu is saying. But Soludo is saying, look, if we are not prepared to release him unconditionally, okay, grant him bail, let me be the shorty. But I've had lawyers say that even that one is not legally possible, that the governor of a state cannot stand as shorty for Nnamdi Kanu in this matter.
Right.
So I do not see lights at the end of any tunnel.
Or there is no tunnel
I do
at
not
all.
see Nnamdi Kanu. I do not see Nnamdi Kanu being released except some extraordinary things happen. If the president wanted to release him, he would not say that the matter should be left to the courts, because when Obasanjo released Mohammed Abacha during his regime, he did not wait for the courts. He took him to the Emir of Kano. He handed him over to the Emir of Kano. Directly in Kano, the president did that handover by himself and told the Emir of Kano that whenever we needed him for his court case, we will come for him. And the Emir should be ready to release him. And that was the beginning. I mean, that was what happened at that time. And Mohammed Abacha has been enjoying his freedom since then. So Obasanjo didn't resort to the courts. He didn't say, "Oh, it's the courts that can release him." That was. He gave dialogue a chance, and he proceeded to hand over Mohammed Abacha to the Emir of Kano.
Right.
In fact, I remember at that time they were saying the security report was bad, that he should not go to Kano. But the president then, Olusegun Obasanjo, went to Kano and handed him over. I guess this is how people like Soludo are thinking, that look, you can actually make this dialogue approach work by taking it upon yourself to say, okay, I'm releasing this person to you. Whatever happens, it is you that will hold responsible. I think that that's how Soludo is thinking. He's thinking that that sort of approach is possible, because the truth is we want the violence in the southeast to end. And if Kanu is instrumental, will be instrumental to ending that needless violence in the southeast, anybody who is interested in peace would want to see that sacrifice made, so that we can have peace. Look at, I saw a video of a man whom they were asking, what did Obi do to you? What has Obi ever done for you? And the man said, Obi has not done anything. So why are you carrying his posters around and all that? He was lucky that they didn't pump bullets into his body. They pumped the bullets into his car tires. So the gunmen who are killing people in the southeast, they are not even discriminatory, whether you are obedient or
they just don't want to hear that you belong to any political party. Yeah, BQ, very quickly before we go, I think there are some comments I'm supposed to take here, but looks like our viewers are actually fighting themselves on the YouTube channel here. But then let me manage to take one or two. Tony Goodman says, Orji and Soludo are only showcasing their political mediocrity. They are only trying to gain cheap political popularity by agreeing to stand surety for Kanu. Well, that's his own opinion. Fabian Akaise says, innocent lives cannot just go to waste. Indigenes of Southeast are afraid, and MNK has encouraged the youth to embrace violence to achieve the Biafra goal. Igbos want to remain in Nigeria. That brings me to the final question, because we're out of time already. This man in Finland or wherever he is, Simon Epa, has been, fomenting a lot of, stirring up a lot of violence in the Southeast, asking them to continue the crises and all of that. What exactly are you reading about this individual's role in the insecurity in Southeast? Very quickly, Bikil.
No, he's not the only one. Now we have cultists, we have all kinds of undesirable elements killing people. It's no longer even, you don't even know, there's no central body that coordinates the activities of these unlawful bodies, unlawful organizations killing people. Anybody can sit in the UK or somewhere else and telling people, no, don't go out on a day like this. If you go out, you will be killed. And there are cultists and other lawless people who, in my view, are receiving money from abroad to kill innocent Southeasterners. A lot of the big politicians in the Southeast cannot go home. They can't go home. A lot of them are operating from Abuja. I should know this because we interview them. We bring them on our shows. A lot of them can't stay at home. So how much longer are we going to have this situation where some misguided fellow will stay outside our country and will be ordering those who are resident in our country to be killing one another? I mean, this nonsense has to stop. It has to stop. And whatever we can do to bring an end to the killings in the Southeast, I'm saying that it is not too much to do it. The Southeast is such a beautiful place. No one should be happy that a part of Nigeria is torn apart and people's lives do not matter anymore in that part of the country. So we've got to find a way to solve this problem. We've got to find a way to solve this problem. I don't know whether the release of Nnamdi Kanu will totally put an end to these killings, but government has the responsibility to first do some findings, and if it discovers that his release will put an end to the killings, then government must find a way to release him with conditions. I don't think any government will be ready to release him unconditionally, given what they've been through in his hands. But if they must release him, even with conditions,
right,
so be it. Let's just find a way to end the needless bloodletting in the Southeast.
Thank you very kindly, Bikeo. Tony Goodman says, these characters, Amanepa, should be repatriated to Nigeria and dealt with. I'm not surprised because he wasn't born during the war. Nelson Adufe says, nice deliberations. Issues with Jide is fantastic. Well done, Babajide and Ibrahim. I think we really have to run because we are out of time already. And that's our show for today's edition of Issues with Jide. Special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, for those insightful analyses. As always, Bikeo.
Thank you. We'll do this again next week, God willing.
And thanks to you, to our audience, for joining us on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG and also at Ibrahim Shita, Ibrahim TVC News. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.